Adrian Carton de Wiart should have died a dozen times before the age of 40. Shot in the stomach, torn apart by artillery, left with one eye and one hand, yet he somehow kept returning to the battlefield. British commanders called him unkillable, but even they did not know the real story behind his obsession with war, or why surviving his first battle changed everything. How does a privileged Belgian boy become the most wounded soldier in history? And is there a limit to what a human body can endure? Adrian Carton de Wiart entered the world on May 5, 1880 in Brussels, Belgium. Surrounded by wealth and expectation, his father, a successful lawyer of Belgian and Irish descent, provided every comfort, but a sense of security did not last. At age 6, Adrian lost his mother, a blow that left a mark deeper than most could see. The family uprooted to Cairo, Egypt, chasing business interests and new beginnings. But the loss of home and mother shaped the boy's early sense of belonging. When he turned 11, Adrian's father sent him to the oratory school in Birmingham. The halls echoed with the accent of England, but Adrian's Belgian name and foreign manner set him apart. He became an outsider, singled out for ridicule and bullying. The lessons here were not found in textbooks. Adrian learned to fight back, to rely on his own strength, and to value action over words. He spent more time in scrapes and confrontations than in quiet study, growing more defiant with each passing year. At 17, he entered Oxford University, expected to follow the family path into law. But the lecture halls felt like another kind of prison. Adrian had no patience for legal theory or academic debate. He failed his exams, showing little interest in anything that did not promise excitement or risk. The rigid world of privilege and tradition could not hold him. By the time war clouds gathered over South Africa, Adrian was searching for escape, drawn not to comfort, but to the chaos and danger of the battlefield. The banks of the river in South Africa became Adrian's first true battlefield. Paget's horse, barely trained and barely rested, was ordered to cross under a sky already thick with gunfire. Boer marksmen waited on the far side, hidden and patient. As the British pressed forward, shots rang out. Adrian went down, hit in the stomach and groin. The wounds were severe, the kind that ended most military careers before they even began. He was dragged from the water by his fellow soldiers, bleeding and barely conscious. Field medics rushed him to a makeshift hospital, where the real surprise came not from his injuries, but from his paperwork. His false name and age could not stand up to army bureaucracy. The deception unraveled. The hospital ledger meant to track casualties now exposed a 19-year-old foreigner posing as a British volunteer. News traveled quickly across continents. Instead of anger, his father sent an unexpected reply: permission to return to war, if that was his wish. The message was clear. Adrian's hunger for danger would not be denied at home, so it might as well be spent on the battlefield. The wounds from that river crossing would be the first of many, each one a tally mark in a life measured by survival. Adrian Carton de Wiart left the hospital with scars and a new sense of freedom, carrying both his father's blessing and the knowledge that, for him, war was now the only path forward. In July 1914, the British campaign against the so-called Mad Mullah in Somaliland called for men willing to take impossible risks. Adrian Carton de Wiart, now an officer in the Somaliland Camel Corps, rode straight into the heart of the action. The assault on Shimber Barras, a rocky mountain fort, became a turning point. During the charge, a bullet tore through his left eye. He kept moving forward. Another round shattered his elbow, and a third split his ear, but he refused to fall back. He later described the chaos as the most exhilarating fun he had ever known. Field medics patched him up, but the damage was permanent. He had lost his eye and much of his hearing on one side. The British Army insisted on a glass eye before he could return to the front. The prosthetic was a daily torment. In a London taxi, unable to stand it any longer, he pulled out the glass eye and tossed it out the window, never looking back. From that day, the black eye patch became his trademark, a silent rebuke to injury and to the medical authorities who thought they could make him whole again. His new appearance was impossible to ignore. The battered face, the missing eye, the unbothered swagger. For Carton de Wiart, the scars were not a source of shame, but proof that he could not be stopped by wounds that would have ended any ordinary soldier. The war in Africa had changed his body forever, but it had only sharpened his appetite for danger. April 1915, Ypres. German artillery ripped through the trenches, sending shrapnel and broken metal in every direction. One shell exploded at Adrian Carton de Wiart's position, his wristwatch taking the brunt of the blast. The force mangled his left hand, leaving only the palm and 2 fingers, barely attached by threads of flesh. A medic on the field refused to amputate. Adrian, unfazed, tore the fingers off himself. There was no time for pain, only the urgency of survival. Months later, surgeons removed the rest of his hand. He returned to the front 3 weeks after the operation, now a one-eyed, one-handed officer, more determined than ever. The following summer, 1916, the Battle of the Somme began. At La Boisselle, chaos reigned as 3 unit commanders fell within minutes. Carton de Wiart, now lieutenant colonel, took command of all 3 units at once. With no radio, he ran through open fire, relaying orders, his black eye patch unmistakable in the smoke. Soldiers watched him pull grenade pins with his teeth, hurling them one-handed into enemy lines. The official London Gazette recorded his actions, praising his conspicuous bravery. It said he took command of all the attacking companies and, although wounded, personally directed the operations. He moved about under heavy fire and was largely responsible for the success of the operations. Later, a sniper's bullet grazed the back of his head. He dismissed it as a scratch. By the end of the war, in 1918, his body was a map of wounds, including stomach, hip, leg, ear, and head. Yet he himself later wrote that, frankly, he had enjoyed the war. April 1941. A Bristol-Bombay transport plunged into the Mediterranean, engines dead, metal groaning as it hit the waves. The crash knocked Adrian Carton de Wiart, now 61, unconscious. He woke underwater, fought his way to the surface, and swam 1 mile toward the Libyan coast, pulling an injured crewmate with his one good hand. Salt burned his wounds, but he refused to let go. When he finally dragged himself ashore, Italian soldiers were waiting. He was captured and transferred to Vinciliata Castle near Florence, where he joined a group of senior Allied officers held as prisoners of war. The medieval fortress was imposing, but its stone walls were not enough to stifle the urge for freedom. By September 1942, Carton de Wiart and 5 others began the slow, secret work of digging a tunnel beneath the castle, trading sleep for 4-hour shifts underground, driven by the hope of escape. On March 29, 1943, after 6 months of digging in 4-hour shifts, Adrian Carton de Wiart and 5 fellow officers slipped out through a 60-foot tunnel in a bold escape beneath Vinciliata Castle. They scattered into the Tuscan countryside. Carton de Wiart was disguised as a local peasant, with 1 eye and 1 hand, and a British accent that fooled no one. For 8 days they dodged patrols and survived on scraps, making it nearly 50 miles before Italian police caught up with them. Imprisonment did not last. In July, Italy surrendered to the Allies, and the tables turned. British command needed someone trusted to negotiate with the new Italian government. Carton de Wiart, the former prisoner, became the official envoy, relaying terms and guiding the transition. Winston Churchill then sent him to China as Britain's military representative, where he survived yet another plane crash. In 1947, after nearly 50 years of war and recovery, he retired at age 66, finally trading the battlefield for quiet in the Irish countryside. Today, military medicine and survival odds have advanced, but the mindset that defied the impossible remains rare. Carton de Wiart's legacy isn't just endurance, it's the refusal to surrender when logic says quit. In a world still shaped by conflict, that lesson is as vital as ever. What would you have done?